all the time. They'd be like, "You actually look kind of like big here," and I was like, "I'm tall. Like I'm a lot taller than you are."
I'm way bigger than you are.
The joke unfortunately died when you came down to Texas though.
Yeah.
And we like stood next to each other with Myrna in the middle, and it was like she's 1 foot. She's like a 2 feet shorter than both of us.
Oh God, she's not even 5 foot.
Yeah.
So it's like she was in the middle of us, and then Matt was wearing obscenely tight pants.
Yes.
And everybody's like, "Your quads." And he's like, "I have 30-inch legs."
So you want me to do our podcast intro again?
Yeah, I mean, we're already recording, so
that's what I'm saying. Is like we might as well just introduce, get the guest introduced, and get the show on the road.
I was waiting for like a funny intro. I was waiting for a little.
This is the intro. Is we just talk a whole lot of shit, and then we bring the intro in afterwards.
Yeah, this is the intro.
Will. So this is what you can expect from us. We are the least formal podcast that exists. We had a podcast a week ago where I don't think we actually got anything done, and we just talked shit about like memes and Instagram and like friends, and it was just fun. Yeah, so that's basically what we're gonna do. So I guess we'll do the intro now. I didn't write it down when I did it for Katie. That was off the cuff, so I don't remember what it is. So I'm just gonna wing it again. So thank you everybody for tuning in to Compound Performance Radio. Today our guest is going to be Will Crozier from Australia. So he's a big, strong man who has a lot of lifts that he does, and he's also a pretty handsome motherfucker too. So if you guys don't know who he is, you guys are gonna learn today.
He's got a lot of neck.
No, he has no neck. All trap. It's all traps.
I always take my I took my progress photos the other day because I'm cutting pretty hard right now, and then from behind it, it's always just like the top half. It's just like boom, and I'm like, God damn it! Like if I was a bodybuilder, I would really need to work on like quote unquote width.
Yeah. So if you guys aren't familiar with who Will is, Will, can you give us a little intro to yourself and a little background on who you are? Plug your Instagram, share us a picture with your traps so everybody can really see how epic these things are. That'll be great.
As a lifter, I compete in powerlifting. I've held the 110 and 125 records here in Australia. Not right at the moment, but hopefully we can get that very soon. My best lifts: 385 squat, 387 deadlift, and 220 bench.
Those are all in pounds, right?
No.
Matt's gonna have to turn those into units for
850-ish for the first two, for the squat and deadlifts. The first two, they're the two that are important to me. So I list those ones first, and then the 220 is just under 500. There you go. That's my rough. That's my rough conversions. And as a coach, I run Nexus Performance Australia, and we have lots of athletes compete at the highest level, which is Pro Raw here and all around the world. So they have a lot of Americans. But
nice.
No, but a lot of Euro guys and Brits and things like that. So yeah, powerlifting coach for 5 years, been coaching full time for 10 years, a little bit less. And then we've got 3 other coaches now in nutrition and programming, but mainly dealing with powerlifting. But yeah, throughout Australia. So, and we are from Australia. We're on the Gold Coast, Australia, just to pinpoint it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Nice.
When he said Australia, I was like, that's a continent. That's a continent. Like we could probably be a little more specific there.
Yeah, I'm from the Southern Hemisphere. So. Track me down.
I heard they call that down under.
Here's the thing, Will. I don't want to have a bunch of people like stalking you and showing up at your house. So I want to be general with where you are, because these podcasts are going to be listened to by millions and millions of people. So we want to make sure that nobody just shows up randomly at your house. That's what we're doing. This is just defense for our listeners.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is just for our guests' protection. But yeah, so like you have a lot of, like you said, you have a lot of lifters from like the UK and the US as well, right? With Nexus.
We actually don't have a lot in the US. We have a lot in the UK.
Okay, you have a lot in the UK. What do you think makes you different from a lot of your peers and a lot of the other coaching companies out there that do powerlifting coaching as well? Because there's definitely you definitely do a lot of stuff very, very differently than what other people in your area would do? And like, what do you think sets you apart from them?
I like to, for me personally, like the brand, but for me personally, I like to think that I don't know, I try and do a lot of learning in different areas. I don't want to say, it's hard to say different areas, but strength and conditioning in general, you know, but I came over there and did the stuff with Zach and with Pat, and obviously that's not powerlifting specific at all. Done a ton of mentorships here, a bunch of learning from you guys, had a few coaches, not that that's a great thing, but it's learning from different people, all really different approaches. And yeah, all that to try and get, I don't know, a better response from the powerlifters, not just like, hey, let's just do squat, bench, deadlift, 5x5. Let's try and move correctly. And I don't know. I really like to try and keep up with everything.
Yeah. I mean,
and as far as the coaching, I don't know. I like to think that we're pretty damn personalized. Like I'm always on top of keeping up with my athletes. That's not to say other people aren't, but I really pride myself on just being in constant communication and staying on top of that all. Mm-hmm. It's just massive for me because online coaching is a little bit distanced. Yeah. You know?
So one of the things I definitely see starting to change in powerlifting, and one of the things I see you guys kind of also like working on, like leading the charge with, is just like better exercises and not just being like, all right, cool, well, let's just have you do 5 sets of 20 reverse hypers and then 5 sets of 10 leg press and then just go home, call it a day. Or like you're gonna do some speed squats because that's useful for raw powerlifting. So like I see, like one of the things that I see is like you guys, like you also do a lot of stuff like that where like the exercise selections and the things that you take with your lifters seem to just be more current with a lot of the stuff that you guys are doing. And like that's one of the things that I see with you guys that just kind of is like helping to lead the charge with, because there's not many other like powerlifting companies or powerlifting coaching teams that do stuff like that or take a lot of continuing education on like biomechanics and movement and things like that to just work on applying better stimulus to their clients and to their people. So I think that's one of the things I think is most interesting about you guys from Nexus. You're back.
Hello.
You're back. Hey, you're back.
Oh, it was absolutely perfect for ages. And now you jumped on it all. What was the last part of that? The very end.
I was saying that you guys just seem to do a better job of choosing like more appropriate exercise selection for better outcomes than a lot of other people do, and it's something that's very rare in a lot of powerlifting circles now. Is like for example, like I talked about it on a post on Instagram the other day where we talked about like just quad volume. It's like, okay, well, what quad volume do we want? Because it's not all created equally. And like you guys do the same kind of thing with this, where it's like, well, we're looking at biasing this position of the quads, this particular muscle. Like you guys seem to do that a little bit more than a lot of other coaching groups out there, which seems to give you guys a bit of a better response with your people. The
scene is changing. Powerlifting, I honestly think is growing in overall like in a really good direction. Like I see some other sports that are much older than powerlifting and are still doing much older things, you know what I mean? I really think powerlifting is progressing. So certainly, you know, I think powerlifting in general is doing good. It's definitely not just me, but that's the influence from all those other like the Zach and the Pat and all that stuff that we did over there, trying to take stuff from them, which isn't necessarily directly powerlifting. I really do believe, just as from my lifting experience, that longevity is really the key to powerlifting. Really, like it's such a simple split. Squat, bench, deadlift. Like you can only there's only so much variance you can work in there. And if you do it for long enough and you train hard, like you're probably going to be really fucking good, you know, as long as you got the rest under control. So just trying to give people longevity, trying to focus on long-term growth, which is going to include hypertrophy and working on different things that aren't squat, bench, deadlift. Although it seems like a much longer route when you first start down it, it's it's not really. It's the one that's going to allow you to keep doing it for forever, which is really the key to powerlifting. I really think it is. Like lasting more than 2 years is the thing that makes you strong.
Yeah.
In powerlifting, so that's where the exercise differences would come from. I would say is like trying to think of it over a much longer time span rather than just, all right, we're going to do bench, and then secondary exercise is bench, and then third exercise is like, triceps in a bench position, or what, like it's, and then you do your rows, same as a bench position, and, like that sort of stuff. And I certainly used to do that, but then and I got really, really fast results because I had a massive base built up from bodybuilding and other sports beforehand that I think allowed me to carry it out a bit longer than maybe other people would get away with it. But soon enough hit a wall, soon enough started running into the same like overuse stuff over and over, and then started to look for different answers. And that's kind of where I had to get out of that box, had to get out of the powerlifting box and start to look in different areas, and it's led us to here.
So my follow-up question on that one would be, how do you communicate that to your clients? Because there's the biggest thing that you said that I feel like ends up being a little bit more difficult with remote coaching is if you're looking at it through the lens that you're looking at it through, which is longevity. How do you talk to a person and say, well, yes, we are definitely going to progress slower here, but you will be healthier long-term and you'll be more consistent in what you're doing, as opposed to doing this hyper specific method where you'll get really quick results really fast and like you'll definitely PR in 12 weeks. Like, how do you communicate that with your athletes?
Well, first of all, just actually communicating it, as in like telling them, hey, this is a plan. Actually like explaining the plan. Like, hey, look, we're going to do this, and it's going to lead to this, and then that's going to lead to that. And, rather than just like having a plan but holding it back, because a lot of people, they plan but actually kind of tell the plan, or they just don't plan, and then they kind of just wing it as you go. Or hey, look, this is the next comp, and then hey, this is the next comp, or whatever. Like the biggest example of that comes to mind for me is just hypertrophy, and we've talked about it a bunch. But it's just like, if you don't actually plan for that and just plan comp to comp, like you just never, you'll get progress. Like you're going to progressively do things a little bit heavier and stuff. But if you don't actually have and that's not saying you need to like block out half a year just pure hypertrophy, just go full bodybuilder bro mode. But you need to have some sort of plan to get bigger slowly over time. And it's just, I just see the same people spinning their wheels. They're just staying the same size. 2-3 years down the track, they're the same size. They're doing the same stuff. So like working stuff like that in, and just communicating it to people to say, hey, this hypertrophy phase, you're going to be weaker now, but longer term, and just. I'm also kind of lucky that these days I attract more of those people. It's definitely like it's less of a battle. It's less of a battle to be like the classic, like I have an 18-year-old kid come to me and he's like the next big thing. Like I don't get that many of them anymore, where it's just like they come to me saying, hey, I want to run small but then can you like add in some extra stuff and make it better for me or some shit. It was just doing ridiculous volume. Like I used to get a couple of those people, and then it would be a real battle to convince them that, hey, maybe this isn't a long-term approach. But these days I get a little less. So I think that's just us just doing it and showing results over a long period of time, and people learning to trust, I guess, which is a hard one for people listening to take on and they go like, oh, I'm going to do that. But you just need to persevere and just keep sticking to your guns, I guess.
I think that is a huge point though, because that's something that we encountered too, that I think has changed over the last 2 or 3 years, where, when you first start out, like you're going to just get some people who find you, and, they're going to come in with their own perception of training, with their own biases, and kind of expect you to train them solely the way they want to be trained, just with, like you said, like a spin on it potentially, where, once you build up a brand, and once you kind of grind through your business and you put some time into it, you've got some athletes, now you start getting more of like a demographic bias, or people are seeking you out for the things that you actually do. And that does allow you a lot more freedom to do those things without having to make more personalized or preference based adjustments all the time, and feel like you have to switch things up for people. where they kind of know what they're, they kind of know what they're getting coming into it. And those are the things that they're naturally attracted to. And it ends up being, better results for the clients because they're going to drive more intention through it, and typically a better, just relationship between the coach and the client, because you're able to communicate things much more efficiently instead of having to like kind of constantly fight people on things. I know like Matt and I have both done that with clients where it's just like every microcycle you give them, they're just like, how about on Thursday I switched this thing for that thing because I like to do it better. And like, that's kind of there for a reason, that's supposed to be there. I'd rather you not switch it out just because, so I think that's a super important point for anybody listening to make, where that might not happen in your first year coaching, remotely, but if you put enough time in and you have a large enough level of success, you will get to that point.
Yeah, you also run into the clients like me who just don't tell their coach that they're going to swap out things and just do it anyway.
That's been sometimes me.
Yeah, I bang on, like, yeah, even if it did happen in your first year and the right people were coming in your first year, I don't think you'd have the experience to recognize it and be able to handle it anyway. Like, I find it over the years, it was kind of like somebody who was strong would come to me, because of my lifting, and then I guess I would buy into what they wanted a little bit too much. I guess like they'd come to me like, oh, this works for me and this works for me, which clearly it isn't, because you've come for help. But then because they were a good lifter, I would be like, I'm going to trust you a little bit more or whatever. When these days, a few years down the track, I realized that that's not always the case. And even with myself as a lifter, like I try not to let my biases come in, like with Matt and things like that. It's just trust it.
I mean, like that's the purpose of hiring a coach, is like that's especially for people like you or me or any other like high level coach who's like also coaching people. Like the best thing that you can get is just the ability to just go be a meat missile and just do what's on the paper. Like, this is great. I don't have to think about anything. I'm going to just go crush some work and then go home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you can actually, the hard thing about being a lifter is you just get, especially once you become, I want to say like well educated, and maybe you're a coach and you just start to like way overthink shit. You start to like way too hard zoom in on things. That's definitely me. So I still think with emotion sometimes, and it's the reason why I need a coach. Because and like Kyle said as well, you want to do the shit you're good at. You never want to do the stuff you're bad at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's face it. Like there's no way I'd be squatting 3 times a week. I'd be like squatting like 1 set a week.
Yeah, that was the best, is when you first came to me, you're like, I do really well with squatting like 2 sets a week. And I was like, cool, we're going to up that frequency a bunch. And you're like, I don't know about this, man.
It's just because it sucks. It's so annoying because like on paper, people are like, I hate squatting so much. It's just like the lift, which I guess it's just because the weight's just on your back constantly. Like there's just never a break. Like squats. Yeah. The squat set sucks from rep 1 to rep 5 or rep 10 or whatever. Whereas in the deadlift, I get like a little break in between, like a reset. Yeah. Just take it one at a time. Whereas, but on paper, my squat and deadlift are only 2.5 kilos apart. Yeah. So I feel like that shouldn't be the case, and I should like squat more than I like squatting, but I just don't. So, I don't know. I think it's going to constantly be like that. Even if we hit 400, I'll be like, yeah, I still hate it.
I still don't like it. But I mean, that's one of the interesting things about you too, is like out of all of the lifters that I've seen, you are the one who is probably the closest squat and deadlift out of anybody else.
Mm-hmm. It was never the case. It was never the case. But I was always a much more confident deadlifter. Like I literally remember the first time I got shown like what a deadlift was. I actually remember it exactly like the moment, because I was training with a friend who had done a little bit of powerlifting, and I kind of just started lifting because it got me out of work at the time. And then I'd go to the gym. I think the first time we went to the gym, we did squats, and it would have been nothing, but I was so sore the next day, like a full-on cripple, just struggling to walk. And then I remember going like, damn, squats are hard, just like we're walking to dinner or something. And then he's like, you wait until a deadlift. And I'm like, well, deadlifts? Like, that sounds terrible. Like, what's a deadlift? And I literally remember that moment perfectly. And then, but then ever since, since I started, I just remember being really good at them. I remember my program literally used to be, like I would go to the gym, do a set of 8 on deadlifts. And then the next time I went to the gym, I'd do like another set of 8, but like heavier. And I would just always just do deadlifts like constantly because I guess I was just good at it, just naturally fell into that groove. And then I think I went a whole year and a half just doing 8s before I realized you could do less reps.
Wait, I can do 1? This is awesome.
Yeah. I remember going to this powerlifting gym in Canberra where I was living at the time. And I'd only ever done 8s. So I think I was up to like 8s at 140 or something. And then the owner of the gym was just watching me. And he must have been thinking like, this guy, like, what the fuck? And then he's like, I reckon you can do 180. And I'm like, nah, I'm on 140, man. 180 is fucking heavy. And then he's like, let's try it 150 or something. And then so he's just like that. And he just kept putting more weight on the bar. And then I did 180 easy. I'm like, oh, you do. Yeah, okay. And then so that was when I learned that low reps exist. And I guess just started my powerlifting career.
Who would have thought that Will was a cardio bunny back in
Seriously, man.
I guess that's just like, I'm talking less than a year of lifting experience. So it's just like, that's just what you did. Like if you just did 8. I guess, I don't know. But
for those of you guys if you guys don't follow Will on Instagram, when we first started coaching, he sent me a video of his lift. It was like any technical feedback would be appreciated. And he sent me his deadlift. I was like, bro, like this is literally like picture perfect. There's nothing to say about this. It's like, it's just beautiful. And like, that's whatever you post, like tag me in a deadlift, I always get like 7 or 8 DM replies that are just like, his pull is so perfect. I'm like, that's just, it's because like you just love doing it. It's just like your bias.
It's who he is.
Yeah.
Practice. A lot of practice.
Yeah.
A lot of doing it every session.
Exactly. You hit that 10,000 hour mark real fast.
Yeah. In this last block that we've done, it's not deadlifting has been very odd. I'll tell you that. It's just been like, what is this week? Like, who designed something as evil as this? Like, the RDLs have been close enough that it's kept me sane. So it's I'll live. I forget where we were, but it's all right.
We were just talking some shit. That's all we do here.
That's the way our podcast goes.
Yeah. We only have one scripted question. That's it.
Yeah, we'll save that for the end.
Yes,
it's our last question.
You'll like it too because you told me on Instagram the other day that you try to not talk shit, and we're going to make you on air.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to make names, but you can.
Yes.
It's just that's the way we go about things.
Fun. Well, nobody will listen to fun podcast.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. Our 5 people are, probably not going to listen or know who you're talking about.
Exactly. Or they're just going to agree with you.
Yeah. Or they're going to agree with you completely.
Yeah.
So.
Well, because if you're listening to our podcast, you probably agree with a lot of the stuff that we say anyway. So
it's definitely.
Yeah.
So I think, as you said, like you kind of got into fitness with more of like the bodybuilding stuff, like how, and that, you obviously kind of alluded to that, giving you a bigger base going into the powerlifting stuff and kind of having a little bit of a foundation there. What was that transition like? I mean, past the sets of 8, but just in general, as you kind of ramped from one to the other, like what did that look like? What did, kind of how did that change from a perception basis for you?
I did 1 year of physique, which is like, the lower board shorts bodybuilding.
Yep. No leg training.
And then I did 1 year of actual bodybuilding. And the funny story is that my coach, like I said, I always liked sport, like I always liked heavy lifting from the start. So it was kind of a little bit like, I just didn't know back then powerlifting was just, quick days and stuff like that. And was nowhere even close to what it is now. So bodybuilding was just like based on me being 18 or 20 or whatever. And then also just that powerlifting didn't really exist you didn't just jump into it like all these freaky 18-year-olds are now. And and yeah, the funny thing was that my coach in bodybuilding, I guess had a bias towards it as well. I just didn't see it. And like one of the programs that he made me run, looking back on it, the stupidest program ever, but it was like small of progression on like a small junior progression, which people don't know is outrageous volume on squat, bench, deadlift throughout the week. Remember doing that, and then pretty much like an entire bodybuilding, like body part workout after.
Oh my God.
It was just ridiculous. Like looking back, I'll have to find it. I'll have to find it. It's incredible. And we're just maxing out weekly. Like our squat. I remember my squat. I remember I'd walk in and do 200 every single week. And they're always like, every second week would be a fail. Because I'd be like, all right, maybe 210. And then I'll fail it. And then the next week would be 200. And the next week would be a fail. And it was just constantly that. I guess it built resilience. I don't know. But
it's called mental toughness training.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I don't know.
It built this great.
Program written by David Goggins.
and then so I kind of came out of that, kind of came out with a bad taste for bodybuilding because my prep didn't, I don't know, I feel like the coach I was with just went way overboard, and with the dieting and with obviously the lifting, like I said, it's just ridiculous. And I'm losing a bunch of muscle, looking nowhere near as good as I even looked in my off season before that, between them. And then and also just got a taste of the bodybuilding circles, the community, which was just not to my liking at all. It was kind of like, doing whatever it was, like 3, 4, 5 shows in that season. Just, I don't know, I just didn't get along with people. And I was just like, fuck this shit. Like, I feel terrible, like, on stage. I'm weak as fuck. Like, I was, like, squatting, like, 60 kilos by the end of it because I was just so weak and depleted. And so I felt shit about myself. And then you go and do the shows, and then the judges are like, yeah, you're shit. Helps. So, and then after it, I'm just like, all right, like, let's go. And let's do powerlifting, because it has started to gain, I guess, a little bit of momentum at that point. And raw powerlifting was a thing. And then, went from like 79 or 80 kilos on stage for bodybuilding to like competing at lean water cut 100 kilos and in powerlifting for my first meet, like 6 months later. So I just absolutely just fucking rebounded hard out of that.
You had to be feeling great.
Yeah.
Training was just like, I don't know if I can be stopped. Like I felt like who's the guy who runs through walls in like the comics?
Oh,
the guy who you look like, the Juggernaut. Come on, bro. You look like him.
I was just like, nothing can stop me now. Nothing. I'm just gonna fuck shit up. And then I remember like doing my first powerlifting comp in 2015, early 2015, and just I just loved it. I honestly just loved the entire prep. So I was just like, I just feel like this is what I've always wanted to do with training. I was already mentally kind of training like that anyway. Like I feel like powerlifting mindset and bodybuilding mindset are different animals, but you definitely need to have like both of them existing in you, because like you need to be able to do a squat triple or repeat triples or whatever and hold technical prowess and not push to an RP 10 where you're fucking shifting everywhere and you're just fucking shit up. Like you need to have some level of I guess just awareness and go like, all right, this is like I need to actually hold technique. Like that's my failure point.
Yeah.
Whereas in bodybuilding, you need to be able to push. You need to be able to push to hard muscular failure. Hit a leg extension and not be able to walk when you get off it. So like things like that, you need to be able to switch and be both of them guys. And I feel like I had at that point had enough of those. But both of those, I was always a kind of a technique nerd, even through the bodybuilding stuff. Really was really interested in learning all the little minutiae. And then so when it came to the powerlifting comp, I was just like, this is fucking sick. Like this is just like what I'm made for. And And it turns out I was, because like the first comp I absolutely like killed it. I went so good. I went 8 from 9, broke an Australian deadlift record for my weight class. My first comp, like it's just fucking awesome. Like I still look back at the videos and I'm like, God, that was good lifting. Like, better than I look now.
But I think that's an important point that you brought up though about having the mindset of both powerlifting and bodybuilding. Because like that's one of the things that I see a lot with. It's like you talked about earlier with those like freakish 18-year-old kids who are coming in. Right. It's like a lot of times when they have like this really, really early on success with powerlifting and they get super strong really fast, they also just don't really develop that mindset and that ability to kind of suffer like you do in bodybuilding. And like that's what bodybuilding is. Like bodybuilding is just prolonged suffering for a long fucking time. And it's like nobody wants to do a set of hack squats until you vomit, but like you have to do that in bodybuilding, or nobody wants to do a set of leg extensions until you can't walk, to your point earlier. So I think like that's an important thing to talk about is like the fact that a lot of people nowadays in that just don't have that mindset or that ability to suffer through something that's really hard other than like a comp specific movement.
Yeah. And not to mention the dieting side of bodybuilding. Like,
yeah,
I honestly feel like if you can get on stage, looking good, like lean enough for bodybuilding, you're mentally strong enough to do pretty much anything. I remember it's like just doing just going to the gym, just like literally just dragging my feet to sit on a treadmill or to try and push myself through a workout, like things like that. It just builds so much mental toughness. I like when people are like now to me as a coach, my athletes are like, oh, I'm like, man, you really need to go through like a mini cut or something to get into the right weight class for you. And maybe we're going to do like a water cut for a week. And they're like, oh, fuck, this is really hard. I'm just like, yeah.
No, it's not.
It's not. Like in bodybuilding, I felt like that for, 4 or 5 months. Yeah. So like, it's just nothing. It's just like, we're doing a water cut for a week. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, you get hungry, but it's just not even on the same level. So,
I mean, you were apparently running Smolov with like extreme cuts at
probably on like 1,200 calories,
which is probably the worst combination of things I could ever think of.
I'm still good friends with a lot of people that had that coach, and so I'm sure that if we find enough, we can find the PDFs. It was just fucking brutal, absolutely brutal.
Just running like German volume training on like 1,500 calories a day or something.
Plus Smolov, plus 6 hours of cardio a week, and a diet of 6 ounces of chicken and 100 grams of rice per day.
Crazy. Yeah, absolutely insane. But yeah, like I said, a lot of although I hated it and definitely wouldn't do it again. You won't see me on undies and stage anytime soon, that's for sure. There was good lessons from it. There was like a lot of like, it teaches you to like I said, just you can kind of do anything.
Yeah.
Like things that are hard, they're not so hard anymore.
Yeah. I mean, especially with that, like you talked about with the bodybuilding diet, like that makes that is a true 24/7 sport. Mm-hmm. And it's like one of the only sports that is truly 24/7 because every single thing that you do affects you. Whereas like powerlifting, it's like, yeah, I mean, if you're comfortably in your weight class, like only thing that affects you is maybe like 5 or 6 hours of training a week. And then other than that, it's like nothing else you do really even matters.
Yeah. Yeah. During that, it's only really like that peaking phase of powerlifting where you're feeling a little bit tired or fatigued, and even then it's pretty, if you've got a good coach, it's pretty carefully like manicured, you know what I mean, like it's pretty handled. Not just let's drive you into the ground type shit, because in bodybuilding you don't need to perform, you don't need to lift things. Whatever. I don't care. Yeah, if you can only squat 60 kilos, you got shredded quads. Awesome.
Exactly. I mean, like if your numbers are going up in the tail end of your prep, your coach is going to look at you and be like, "Oh, you're not dieting hard enough. I need to kill you more."
Yeah, it was intense. It's led me to like I've always felt when I started. I think we talked about this maybe last time. I'm not sure, but when I started powerlifting, and it was so like 6 years ago, and even now to a degree, but I really do feel like still like the nutrition side is just not given near enough credit. Like really feel like if a lot of people could just like learn good nutrition to be able to optimize body composition, like how to perform a diet without just tanking their strength or performance, and how to actually gain muscle over a longer period of time, how to set things up like that. And then also like a little bit of the performance nutrition as well. Like it would just, everybody would be a lot stronger. And I wouldn't have to go to the gym and see super skinny people trying to run small or whatever.
But then I can't bring donuts into the workout, Will, and I don't want to live that life.
I'll let you have one donut.
Make sure it's powdered for that quick acting sugar. You'll be good.
Yeah.
Look like a pre-workout.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of good lessons.
No, for sure. I think that brings up like a super good point too, with just effort, and one of the things that always amazes me whenever we're coaching, athletes or clients or whoever, and the majority of our clients are coaches, right? For both Matt and I, obviously his is more on the powerlifting side and mine's more on the regular person side. And everybody wants to kind of create complicated solutions to problems. And most of our clients just oftentimes need to like work harder. And that's what we kind of find out a lot of the time. It's like your effort's just kind of shitty. Like you're not pushing through things. You're like grinding out, sets of 5, but then you're kind of pussing out on like your higher rep stuff and you won't push those, right? It's like they're almost shifting into the wrong things all the time. And it's just like, it can sometimes just be simple enough that like, you just need to work harder. Like that's all there is to it. Like you need to know how to suffer a little bit more in a lot of these things.
I've coached 400 kilo squatters who, are doing body weight split squats. I'm just like, come on, man. I mean, geez. And, like it's the absolute.
Will, it burns. It burns my quad.
I actually did. So I do an Instagram live weekly just on a random topic that comes to mind. And this week I was talking, somebody got a couple of questions over the week on like AI coaching and how I perceive that, my thoughts on that. And one of the things is that I can think of like a few names just on my client list at the moment where they were just people that just were exactly that person that you were saying. How like they came to me and their progress was there, but it was like, it was slow. And then, and it just didn't make sense because they were fairly novice and, they had a lot of room to move. I would expect that person to grow and get stronger a lot quicker than they were. And then when they came to me, and then I'd be like, all right, it's these days it's a dead giveaway. I know what to look for. But straight away, I'm already asking questions like, all right, like how much effort is really going in here? And then they'll send me some videos of their squats, bench, deadlift, and like they're true, that they're pushing because there's a percentage or whatever. No, all right. Send me a video of like your leg press or your RDLs or your lunges or whatever, and then they send it, and it was like, all right, this is down for like RP8 or 2 reps in reserve, and this is so far from that. It is unbelievable. Like, and they're like, yeah, but it feels like I only got 2 more. And then that's when you start chucking in like MRAPs and things like that. And really, I'll start setting them weights. I'll be like, all right, I want you to just do MRAP on the last set, and I'll get way more. And then the next week I'll be like, all right, you're going to use this weight next week. And then they'll freak out for a second. And then next week they'll come back and be like, oh, this is amazing. And then, 6 months down the track, that person is a completely different person. They're just so much mentally stronger. They know what it feels like to actually push. It benefits them in way more than just numbers progress. I can tell you that. And I think that's the thing where coaches are always going to have a place, no matter what.
That's the best is like when you get a 400 kilo squatter that has like 120 kilos loaded on the leg press, and you're like, you are soft. Like you are really soft, dude. Like you got to load that up.
Yeah. And it's incredible once you get them to flip that switch.
Yeah.
I love watching it. I think they're like almost one of my funnest clients. So I just know, like, I'm like, all right, we're going to bring it. And then I still feel like most powerlifters should run almost bodybuilding programs in phases where there's not a competition coming up. I really feel like I know a lot of people will argue with me, and these days you can run like DUP and kind of do things at once and come up with complex models like that. But I just really feel like you can take a really thought out bodybuilding program, add a little bit of squat, bench, deadlift to it, and that is almost like what you need for if you're more than a few months out from a comp.
But then how am I going to seek clout on Instagram?
Can't post those videos, Will.
Nobody wants to see me doing a set of 15 leg extensions, Will. They want to see the people want a 1 rep max squat. Okay. I got to do it. It's for my fans.
Do they though?
So
they also want to see jacked. You know, if you're more jacked, they would want to see that.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, people want to see Larry Mills do a 1 RM bicep curl.
Yeah.
You know? That's because he's just fucking monstrous. So I feel like we should all just be, if we're just aiming to be like that, just be a fucking monster.
It's very
that's my favorite thing is like when people talk about somebody like Larry Wheels and like, yeah, he's just a freak. It's like he's the most muscular person I've ever seen. Like he worked really hard to get that jacked too. And like he's really strong because he's got more muscle than anybody else in the fucking sport. So like also you should probably get bigger. Like it's my favorite thing.
And then drugs come up and you're like, yeah, but like how many thousands of people are in drugs and powerlifting?
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a lot of people on drugs that don't look anything like that.
Yeah,
just want to be 100% clear.
A lot more than we like to admit.
Yeah. There's people that are on drugs that you look at and you're like, you're on drugs? Really?
You need a refund, my friend.
Yeah, you need to get your money back.
Forgot the train.
Yeah, I always look at the main one for me. He was meant to come to Pro Raw and compete. I was actually meant to compete against him last year before COVID. Ruined it, but Nicholas Dupree's from Africa.
Yeah.
He was due to come over and compete in 125s. And then like when I look at him, I'm just like, man, this sucks no matter like he's just so fucking jacked.
He's a unit. That dude is a fucking fridge.
Yeah. But then you see his training, like if anybody follows him on Instagram, whatever, like his training is ridiculous. And it's not like powerlifters where they're like, oh, you know, we don't need to train biceps because it's not going to carry with my lifts, or we don't need to train calves because it doesn't need to carry with it. And then you'll see him like, I don't know, like fucking walking a kilometer with 100 kilos barbell on his back. And you're like, okay, that's not going to directly carry over, but fuck me. Like, Jesus. Like, you know what I mean? He's just a fucking beast.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, okay. Like, I don't know. He's not making excuses. Like he's just going really hard. And you can see why he's just a jacked, massive motherfucker.
Yeah.
And again, it's easy to fall back and say, yeah, he takes way more drugs, but knowing what I do and being in the circles I know with a lot of elite powerlifters, that's not the case.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a convenient excuse for people that don't actually work hard. Like if I was on that much stuff, I'd be even bigger and stronger than him. It's like, no, you wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't.
It's like you still don't know what an RPE 8 is. Like I don't think that would actually work.
I don't think that's your problem. That's not your roadblock here.
It's like you eat 2,500 calories a day, and I've been watching your videos for 6 months, and you haven't gone over an RPE 8 yet. So just probably should work on some other things first.
That's where the MRAPs are.
Yeah,
MRAP.
Man,
teach some hardness.
They'll change your life, man. We do those with just the program that, you know, Matt wrote for me originally that now we've had a bunch of people through. And it's always fun to watch the first couple of weeks because people will just stop at like 20 reps. And it's like they had a predetermined number in their head and like, 20 seems like a lot. And they stop and they casually walk away from the bar. And
especially when it's a machine.
Like and you're just, well, we'll do it on like trap bar deadlift and they'll just like walk away. And it's like, hey, just so you know, if you can physically walk away from the trap bar, that wasn't an AMRAP, right? Like that was as many reps as you felt like, not as many reps as possible. And those are two very different things.
That's my favorite story that we ever had is like one of the group mentorships that we did last year. Awesome. This dude was training on the call and we recorded it and he's like, well, he's like, I don't know, man. And we're like, you're going to do your AMRAP right now.
With everybody watching. With
all of us watching. He's like, I don't want to do this. He's like, the 8s were feeling really, really heavy. And then the dude did 45 reps with his AMRAPs. It's like, you called those 8s heavy and then you did a set of 45. Like, what are you talking about?
It's
I
amazing
went
what
over.
peer pressure does.
Yeah.
I went over. I did some seminars with a company called Sports Nutrition Australia, who are kind of like to certify people in nutrition and affiliated with a lot of smart people. And I went and did a seminar alongside Eric Helms in New Zealand. And one of the things that they did in that seminar for the participants was to show people that exact thing, like RPE and RIR and I guess how much it can be wrong. And so what we did was, I think it was like deadlifts or squats to a 5 or a 6, and you had to like literally just yell out, "I've got 2 more," and then just keep going, like as many as you could, and see how close you could get. And most people were only a few reps max out on their squat and their deadlift and their big, the heavy work. And then we did bicep curls with a super light weight where you could do it at least 20, at least. It was like the bar. And got people to do the same thing. All right, yell out when you got 2 more or 3 more in you. And then people were like yelling out, "Oh, I got 2 more," and then we'll do like 50 more. Like it's crazy. It was actually a really, really fun experiment, and something that I want to do again in the future, because you see that like moment on people's faces, and it's like you just change their life. They're like, "Wow, I'm so much stronger than I thought I was." So it's awesome. I love it.
It's always the best. Is like you get to see some, like I got to do one of those at the N1 education camp in Dallas, and like there was a couple where people were doing like leg extensions, and the people who were running it would just come over and be like, "No, you got like 8 more reps left." And they're like, "I got none." And they're like, "You got 8 more to do. Let's go." And like you would just see these people, like they would look like really like upset in the moment, but it's like you said, afterwards it looks like they changed their life. But like it's great because you get to see that face change from like, "Oh, I'm such a bitch," to like, "Oh, I'm a badass," like real fast after they hit those 8 extra reps.
That's what I think every off season we're gonna have hack squats in there.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because I just love, like, it's like that thing where you get through like a hard rep and then you just think I don't know. I think everybody thinks about it differently, but like in my mind, I'm just like the one more type mentality. I don't know how else to explain it, where I'm just like, all right, one more. Then you get through that, you're like, one more. And then you get through that, one more. I don't know. It's just keep it on, just one more. And that's how I try and teach people to think about it. But I know everyone kind of thinks about it a bit different, but that's how I feel it. I know. I love that feeling of like, I might not make this next rep. I might not, if not, like I'm just going to be sitting at the bottom and calling out for help. So it's not the end of the world. It's embarrassing, but
especially on a machine.
Oh,
right?
it's
like,
great.
I mean, that's like I wouldn't like have a client do that like with an actual like barbell squat, but if we're on
no, you don't want to get paid.
Yeah, if we're on a hat squat though, it's like, yeah, if you get stuck in the bottom, like that's cool. You can probably crawl your way out of that. If you're same thing on a leg press or whatever, it's like that's probably good for you. Like that's a character building experience for you.
Once every now and then.
Like just push it. Like
It's
just
like
go.
it's like when people talk about like not wanting to take like a leg extension to failure. It's like, what's the worst that happens? It just stops moving. Like you're fine. Like you just get up and walk away, or you crawl away because you fall over. But it just stops moving. And like that's the thing is you look at people who take these like sets to failure. I have like. You probably can confirm this as well, but like I've literally never seen a person come off of a set to failure and not be like have like a little smile on their face afterwards, be like, "Oh, that was actually kind of fun. I like that. That was a good time."
You overcome something.
Yeah.
There's something about that when you get off a leg extension or hack squat or any, then you're like walking along, and then for some reason your quad just decides to just not work.
Oh, you just fall face first into the ground.
You're like, you have to catch yourself a little bit. You're like, "Oh, I'm fine." And everyone's like looking at you like, "Is this guy fucking like what is wrong?"
And you're just like smiling and laughing. Yeah.
Random steps, you just get legs just not there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love that. So that's what I mean by like that. You need powerlifters need to find their inner body with it. It's you need to have both. You need to have the each one on your shoulder and knowing how to like access both.
Yeah.
I don't know.
100%.
Big thing. Most people only got one or the other.
Yeah.
They're developed over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think well, it's funny to me because it's even like it corresponds with like the central governor theory for like, or that you hear about in aerobic work where, lactate threshold actually happens, way like you actually have more threshold, like way more threshold than your actual like cognitive abilities will dictate. Like your brain will try to shut you down long before you've actually maxed out like oxygen utilization within a tissue. And that's something even
is that like the whole second wind thing when people are...
Yeah, where it's like there's a really good book on it called Endure by Alex Hutchinson. Super good book. A lot of like actual stories with the research associated with them too. So it's actually a good read. It's fun to read. It's not like reading, just something that's too nerdy. It's a book that even like Matt could read. So,
and I can't read, so it's one that I could find. I can still get done.
Matt struggles with especially with fiction type books, So it's definitely something that you see that with people, and your body's going to try to protect you. It's going to try to shut you down before risk is incurred, because it doesn't know if you're on a leg extension or if you're doing something that's like far more risky and not in a set range of motion at that point. And it's the same thing if you're riding an assault bike, or you're running a long distance. Like your body's going to try to shut you down long before like you're actually at physiological risk in any kind of way. And it's kind of your e-brake. So I think the more that you can push that boundary, and that's the science says, the more that you can push that boundary, the more you can actually affect your threshold in a lot of ways, and the more efficient you become with like oxygen utilization, which for hypertrophy is going to be an important thing. Like you want to be able to flood tissues and not get, that venous dumping. So there's science there that also just, not pushing that every single session, but pushing that every now and then is a huge thing, even psychologically, just to know you can.
Definitely. I need to find that place with cardio, because I still just sit there just staring at the timer. It's like, please go down.
Yep.
Why aren't you at 20 minutes yet? What the fuck?
Yeah. That's what I always tell people. Like I ran the 400 in college, and I've done like competitive rowing since then. And it's like, if you can do one of those things at a pretty high level, like you can embrace a dark place.
Oh yeah.
Like pretty, like,
oh yeah.
I literally had a bucket in my garage when I was doing rowing where I would puke like 3 to 4 times a week after training sessions or in the middle of training sessions, and just have to keep going based on what coach had to do. And it's just like, once you do that for a long enough time, you can do just about anything.
Yeah.
Like it's not that hard anymore.
Yeah, like you look at some of these people that are competing in like other sports, and it's like, you definitely wrestled in high school, didn't you? It's like, yeah, I hate myself more than anything else. I wrestled for a long time. Like, oh, you just got this like evil darkness deep inside of you. It's just festering, because like that's just what wrestling breeds in people.
I did a max effort 1 minute test where it took me almost 35 minutes of just laying on my garage floor at 5:15 in the morning a.m. to actually recover from it, where like my wife thought I was having a seizure. Like I was like rolling around on the ground, couldn't control my limbs, everything burned, my lungs were on complete fire. And it's just like, but then the whole rest of the day you're on a complete high.
Yeah.
Because you made it through it, and you're just like,
but that's why you go back and do it again. Like
yeah.
If that truly floored you and you hated it, you just wouldn't do it again.
No, you're like, I fucked myself up, and I survived it, and I'm better for it. And it's definitely, it's a mentality.
I think this cardio section got like 4 out of our 5 listeners to just like stop listening.
No way, man. No,
I heard cardio and they're like, "Ooh, I'm out of this."
But they only heard a minute cardio though. So I think
that's true. That's true. That's true. This might actually be revolutionary, and this one could go viral, because 1 minute cardio is the new thing.
Now they're like, "Oh shit!"
Oh, I like that. I can get this all done in a minute.
It's the longest minute.
That's why I always try and sneak in cardio at the end of the seminar. If I have to speak about cardio, like if we did a stress seminar a few years ago, I was like, it's part of the content. Like it has to find its way in there. Yeah. And I just like buried it right at the end. So like, but the people just like have to listen to that shit.
Yeah. Especially now in like the time of COVID, you can see that little waiting room number, and you start talking about cardio. You watch that go from like 70 people to like 25.
Oh
man, it's just all left.
You'll be in your Zoom and you'll see like the attendees, and you're like, wow, 25 people just dropped straight out of it.
They saw the word cardio and they all just bounced. Like, what the hell?
It's amazing.
Kyle's not a submax, not part of the submax boys.
Not in that. I'm
It's
definitely.
part of the max out boys.
I'm an aerobic person, so like I'll push myself there. I actually have a much harder. Like Matt will make fun of me. Like I'll take my 90% 1RM for like 15 reps, but to do like 2 pounds over my max,
It gets stapled.
I just like it. It doesn't move.
It's so funny.
It's the dumbest thing in the world.
Because like when he was going through AMRAP originally, he hit like 565 for 8 and then failed 585 for 1 like 2 weeks later. I was like, what do you mean? What? And that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
And it wasn't like he failed it like as he was getting close to lockout. It didn't even budge off the ground.
Didn't come off the ground.
Didn't even move.
Like didn't even come off the ground.
It proves it's a skill, right? It just proves it's a skill. Like, like you want to get good at ones, do ones. You know, but
My favorite text that I ever received from Kyle was like week 3 of the AMRAP program. He like just got back from a flight from New York, and he's like, I feel like shit today. 495 moved like ass. And I was like, okay, cool. He's like, going up to 550. I was like, why? He's like, I barely hit all my reps at 495, but I'm gonna do 550. I was like, you're stupid. And then he just texted me back. He's like, didn't happen. I was like, I know. Like, I'm not surprised, man. Like, what do you think?
I'm one of the dumbest clients in the world.
You haven't found the powerlifter guy. The guy, he's not there yet.
Well, that's my thing is, and Matt will attest to this for training me for almost 2 years. If I can do something one time, I can do it like 9 times.
Yes.
Maybe 10. But if I can't do it, like otherwise it just doesn't move.
Yeah.
It's either just capacity based or it's nothing.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're born to be a bodybuilder.
Yeah, just
he doesn't hate himself that much.
I just don't hate myself.
I see you in some tan up there.
I would be watching Kyle in like spray tan and the posing shorts would be like the little mankini would be incredible.
God, I'd have to shave my chest and everything.
Oh, it'd be so good.
Shave everything.
If you guys are listening to this, DM Kyle and pressure him into doing a bodybuilding show. The people need to see this in 2021.
The Masters edition.
Exactly. This is what 2021 needs. You will turn the entire year around for everybody if you step on stage.
Yeah. But see, this is the other end of my spectrum too, is like I've probably sat in the same like 2%, body comp window for the last 20 years of my life. And I refuse to diet down any more than that. And I don't think I could gain more weight if I even tried with my level of activity. I'd have to like force feed myself. So it's like I sit between 10 and 12% all year round. Doesn't matter.
That's part of it.
It's like,
so it's just a short cut down. Like you got like a month. You're like a month out.
Yeah.
I've never tried to cut weight in my life, and it's definitely not happening.
You're like a month to 6 weeks out. You got plenty. You could do it, Kyle.
I'm good.
Everybody DM Kyle and get him to get on stage. Somebody sponsor it. Let's make it happen.
If I tried to cut down, I would look like a legit giraffe.
It would be hilarious. I need to see this.
The skinniest person on stage there.
That's why it needs to happen.
It's just.
You would have been under 10% in that. Yeah, I've seen photos of you, Lee. There would have been some.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. It's not going to happen now.
Just telling you right now. No.
I'm just way too old for that at this point.
You got too many things going on. Yeah.
I'm just too old.
Speaking of hating yourself, I think this is a nice segue into our only scripted question.
Yeah, this is a good
Excellent.
one.
Kyle, you want to ask him?
I think because you're the person who probably hates themselves the most on this call, you should probably go with it.
So Will, this is our only scripted question that we have in this podcast, and we always like to surprise it on people because we haven't released any of these episodes yet, so nobody knows what's coming. What do you hate most in fitness and why? Please name names.
You said what, not who.
What or who? What or who? Like, what is like what do you hate most?
Hate this person.
Exactly. And name because we're going to try to get them in the waiting room. What was that?
It changes day to day, like just the trends of like things which you hate. At the moment, and you guys would be at the forefront of this as well, being where you're at, and I almost regret some of the education and spreading of information to a degree, but like the whole like people that have been hard down like either the PRI rabbit hole or something like that in powerlifting, and then trying to, and now it becomes like it's a thing to like try and turn powerlifters into, I don't know, into rehab patients.
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's just that fucking annoys me, only because I had gone down that a little bit, and then like I guess I'm exposed to both sides more than most people, I guess, I don't know, but that really frustrates me, only because I see people doing the same thing and it annoys me. But that has to be the current trend, which is pissed me off. Like some guy talking about how, you know, somebody's trying to has a goal of squatting 400 kilos or 300 kilos or whatever it is, something ridiculous, and then they're worried about how many degrees of this they have. Just like the guy who handles me every comp, has coached me, been alongside me for a huge time, Thomas Lilly, who's the gym that I train at. Where we have really good conversations all the time in the gym. Stuff which I wish I could record. I think it would be great. But he was saying to me the other day, he's like, you seem to do a lot less of, I don't know, I guess like the movement-y stuff now. And I was just like, yeah, I feel like I went a bit far in that, and then it got to the point where I realized that as soon as I put 400 kilos on my back, or put 400 kilos in my hand, or put 200 kilos above my face, it just doesn't matter as much as what I would hope it would. So like, I still think it's important. I'm not sitting here saying like everybody should just fucking ignore biomechanics or respiratory mechanics or any of that stuff completely and just, you know, throw that in the garbage. Just lift heavy. I'm definitely not saying that. I'm just saying how, yeah, you need to be considerate of the situation and of the person and the goals and all that stuff. It's something that I've definitely changed myself and as a coach and as a lifter.
We talk about that a lot.
But your squat is not squatty, Will. It's a hinge, so it doesn't even count because it's all about how pretty it looks. It's not about how much weight you lift.
You're not quite stacked enough.
How dare you have your ribs flare by 1 degree? This is over. We're canceling this podcast. We're not airing it.
No, I mean, Matt and I actually talk about that a lot because we see it more, and it's obviously something that, you know, if you follow, especially me on Instagram, like it's stuff that I care about, but it's also within the context that like I'm not a fucking power lifter. Like if you know, in the power,
you always give context to it. Whenever I read your post, you're always like, hey, by the way, you know, don't do this if you know, or like context. I see a lot of like sharing of, you know, like this sort of stuff really from a power lifter, and he's not saying, and they're not saying, or from a rehab. I see it more in a rehab, like an ex-phys or something will sell, like, hey, this is a great thing. And I know that they're deep in powerlifting circles, and I know a lot of their audience are powerlifting circles, and I'm just like, you really need to give this more context, because people like me or people like whatever are going to read this and then go and do it, and then maybe, you know, not go backwards at all, but it's not what you're selling it as. And
so Kyle and I, we DM each other about this all the time. When we see like a power lifter go like really deep down like the PRI rabbit hole, and they try to get like their squat super squatty, like we DM each other with like a little bet. It's like, how much time do you think it'll take until this person tears their quad? And it almost always happens. It's like they try to get their squat to be so much more knees forward, and they're not prepared for the load, and they try to load it with the same load that they did before, and inevitably they tear their quad. It happened to me in September. It happened to like a couple other people that I follow like pretty recently. Like, it's just what, you know, if you try to change the pattern too much.
I more see people just detrain from it.
Yeah. Well, and that's definitely
like,
a new thing.
Because you have to reduce your weight to like 100 kilos max, whatever, and then you realize in 6 months' time, you realize that 100 kilos probably wasn't doing a whole lot. And you know, I think the biggest thing to take away from it is that, you know, although it's good to get all this stuff happening and to, I don't know, to get in the rehab-y type goals, to get things moving. Like at the end of the day, like powerlifting is a sport about getting things to like muscles and joints and everything to work together, not about how much we can isolate our quad, how much we can isolate this. I don't know. It's just, yeah. I guess that one, it just hurts deeper than the rest because I've been a little bit too far down that rabbit hole myself.
If you didn't feel your transverse glute fibers during your 1 rep max squat, then it doesn't count.
You're going to get in trouble again, Matt. The internet's
Good.
Did you lose your left heel on that deadlift?
Oh, doesn't count. Game over. Red lights.
No, but I mean, I think that's a huge point, though, and it's definitely something that we see a lot too, because it's like it's any trend, right? Like you see a demographic or a niche in the industry, like they find that certification, and everybody hopes it's going to be the thing that puts them over the top and gives them that advantage or kind of cures all their ails. And what you're saying is exactly what we see the most of. Is you just see a bunch of people that they feel better initially just because they're lifting so much lower load, right? They've lowered their stimulus so much. They're like, oh, my knees and hips and back feel great now. It's like, well, you've been doing sub max work for 6 months. Like, I'm sure you feel fantastic.
You haven't hit over 30% in like a year.
Yeah, but next time you step on the platform, like you're probably going to bomb out your meat. Like you're not going to do well if even if you don't get an injury out of just the progressive overload, you're just not probably going to do as well as you would like to do. And, for us, it's like, okay, like if I want to create, a more upright stack position on a squat, for instance, and, for an accessory lift to your normal comp squat, like I'd much rather put you on a hack squat, load the shit out of it in a good position, than give you like a heel elevated, SSB or Zercher or front squat or whatever, and just let you push load in a very, controlled position from that perspective.
It's almost like the hack squat puts you in that position by the design of the machine.
Yeah, but it's harder than doing a heel elevated goblet squat.
Yes, and like it's not as functional as a heel elevated goblet squat is. For those of you guys who were asked what if my voice cracked, that was me saying it in the uppercase, lowercase troll letters.
I was about to bring stability up, and then I'm like, I don't want to go on that road. No, Matt's going to inside another internet war.
I know. Yeah, Matt's going to do another armbar post and piss off the entire internet.
Yes, my 2-pound kettlebell armbar PR.
Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of things that unfortunately there's no person to pick out Matt, but there's a lot of them.
I hope all of our guests know that we ask this question specifically so I can go find that person and then start an internet war with them.
He's gonna troll those people.
I'm gonna go find them and be like, hey, guess what? Hey, I found you. I'm coming for you.
You said, like I said to you yesterday, I'm not about burning bridges. I'm just like, all right, cool. Look, you're an idiot, but I don't feel the need to tell you. I don't feel the need.
See, that's my philosophy. And then Matt's like, what bridges?
Oh, I'm going to tell you. I need you to know that you're an idiot.
The amount of people that have blocked Matt, but still like follow me and like DM me it's a huge number of people.
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
And they're just like, they haven't put it together, and it's like, oh, I agree with him on all of this. I'm just a nicer person than he is,
on the internet.
Not
only on the internet.
I'm not a nice person in real life, but
we're gonna have to have an intervention.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll jump on it. Matt's gonna jump on the next podcast call, and it'll be just like heaps of people just sitting there waiting for you. Just like, hey guys, what are we talking about today? Well, actually.
We think you have an anger management problem.
I would actually feel bad for everybody else on that call, and not Matt.
Mostly because they'd have to look at my face for any amount of time.
Well, I think you just go off at that point. So
Good.
Closing up, where can everybody find you?
Best place, definitely on Instagram. I'll actually respond there. At WCroz, William Crozier shortened, WCROZ, and at nexusperformance.aus as far as business stuff goes. And then from there, you'll be linked to the website and good things will happen. You'll get strong and yeah, your life will be better. It'll enhance you.
You're not your marketing guy, are you? Do you let Mickey handle that one? She does.
Yeah, you can't tell.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you guys, everybody, for tuning into Compound Performance Radio. We will see you and release the next podcast when it gets released. So don't hold your breath because you'll probably die waiting.
Bye, everybody.